Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 229 of the Kiss Army Nation podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Pasquale Vari.
And I'm Claudio Spera. Welcome to the show, everyone. So tonight, we travel back to 1975 when Kiss were still a hungry, fire-breathing club band trying to prove that they belonged in the biggest stages in America. So before the costumes became iconic, before the empire took shape, there was Alive. So the album that captured the chaos, the sweat, the electricity that words alone couldn't describe. So 50 years later, now, 2025, we're holding a deluxe box set that doesn't just reissue history, it reframes it. So this episode is our chance to revisit that turning point, explore what made Alive so essential, and see how the new anniversary edition reshapes our understanding of the album that changed everything, not only for Kiss, but we think that for rock and roll too. So plug it in, turn it up, and let's dive into the legend.
And what better way and with whom to dive than with Patrick de Montigny and Michael Bornasian. Welcome back to the show, boys.
Hey,
hello.
So great to be here.
So before the show, Michael was saying how philosophical this topic is. So I guess it is. So, before we get into this philosophical topic of Alive and, the big historical and musical angles that we're going to take on this particular era, and of course, talking about the anniversary box set, let's start by reconnecting with our own experiences as fans with this particular album. So what was your very first memory you have of Alive, and how did it shape how you saw the band at the time? Patrick, we'll start with you.
For me, Alive is what set the tone for me as a Kiss fan because it was the first Kiss album that I ever owned. I'll make a quick, long story very short. My older brother went to see the Love Gun show here in Montreal, but didn't become a fan. He went with a friend, but he talked about it, and make a long story short, talks about it with one of our cousins who says, yes, I have an album by them. I'm not a big fan. With the look, he expected something more in the Genesis, Peter Gabriel type of thing. Make a long story short, I said, would you lend me this record so I can listen to it? Because I was already into music, and the minute I put it on, it was rock bottom because I had no... it was reversed, like he put the second record in the first sleeve, so I just took the one, listened to that, and the first time I always hear, the introduction, chills. And
really? Wow.
Yeah, and for a few months, that was the only record I listened to, because I was 9 years old. That was the only Kiss album that I had. And I still have a copy of it. I should have pulled it out for the episode, but anyways, Alive for me has that special attachment because that's where it all started, the first Kiss. And plus it's a historical album for most of Kiss fans. And but for me, it's like, this is where it started.
Wow. What a kiss, huh? What a first kiss.
What a first kiss. Yes.
So Patrick, let me ask you, whenever you play Alive, do you start with rock bottom?
I've done it a few times, actually. I'll say it's a little harder, but I've done it a few times, actually. It's funny you mentioned that, but yes, I've done it just for I remember when I was sitting in my parents' living room, and of course I had to put the headphones on. It was an early Sunday morning, but wow, what an impact it has had on me.
Can you imagine if you had been at Kobo when they opened with Rock Bottom?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Right.
When that was... when that leaked, I was like, strange.
Yeah, exactly.
Strange.
Yeah.
So that's for me, that's my attachment for Alive. Alive has that special place for me, for sure.
Great. Michael, your memory of Alive.
So, I got very much into Kiss in the early 90s. I've said this a few times. I first became knowledgeable of Kiss in the early 80s. I knew who they were for about 10 years. I knew their main songs, singles, and videos, but I didn't really deep dive into them. It was only around 1993 that I really decided, or I realized, I like this, let's deep dive into it. So I cannot remember when I purchased Alive. It was definitely somewhere in 1993, 1994. I don't know if it was the first or the second or the fifth or the seventh album that I got, but it was definitely in there. Originally, just the a 2 CD set. Of course, now I own the Alive box set, I guess you can call it, which contains Alive, Alive 2, Alive 3, and then Alive 4, the Millennium Concert. It's a great set. I still own it today. And now I have, the Alive, deluxe 50-year set with, Alive remastered and, all the additional shows. What does it mean to me? I mean, it is definitely a cornerstone of the KISS listening experience. That's for sure. When we did the last episode talking about Dress to Kill, I said a number of times, find me someone who doesn't like Dress to Kill. Well, I'll say the same thing here. Find me someone who doesn't like Alive, who is a KISS fan. I don't think it's possible. So yeah, I mean, it's something that I've listened to regularly over the years. It's never really left my field of vision when it comes to listening to KISS. The era of 75, 76, that era is, if you really want to deep dive and listen to different recordings that are out there of KISS, unofficial recordings, there's plenty out there that really, deep dive more and give you a real good listen into that era, both a little bit before and a little bit after Alive. It's very interesting to see the progression of the band, from Dress to Kill leading into mid to late 1975 and into early 76, pre-Destroyer, pre-Super KISS, I guess you could say. Very interesting, very, very, very enjoyable, but also very interesting to hear, the little changes in the band, how they interact with the audience, how the audience interacts with them. Something that you don't unfortunately get with Alive, because as I said in our previous discussion panel, the one negative I've always had with Alive is that, the crowd noise just sounds like one monotonous drone. Whereas with, the good thing with these box sets that we've had is that you actually hear the crowd. You hear individual voices, you hear clapping, you hear chanting, you hear people screaming marijuana. You hear these things, and that's what makes a concert unique. So yeah, but Alive has always been, and I think will always be, definitely an important part of the KISS listening experience, not just for me, but for anybody.
Nice. Claudio.
So back in, I think I told the story many, many times. So we're going back to 1979, and I had never heard about or listened to KISS, and I was at my cousin's house there. They were older than me, and I guess but in Argentina, Alive came in two different albums. There was a disc 1 and disc 2. It was not a kind of a double album. So you could buy actually separate. And I remember that he put out, he started playing the same thing, the side 4 or the side 2 of the disc 2, with rock bottom. And my brother was there, and he got really hooked. My brother, he was like, "Well, this is great," and I didn't like it at the beginning. I said, "Oh, well, this is like too much." I was really captured by the image, but not so much about the music. So then, the same year, I bought Dynasty, because as you know, it was huge in South America with "I Was Made for Loving You" and all of that. But reading the magazines and everything, I was thinking, how could it be to experience this band live? So then I revisited. I went back and bought Alive, and it became my favorite my favorite album of all. The catalog. I said it many times. To me, as Michael was saying, it's a cornerstone. There's nothing that can be compared to Alive. But just to answer the question, my first impression was like, wow, what is this? What are these guys playing? But with a little bit of time, I think it was like 2 or 3 months after, I was completely hooked.
I have a similar experience because with me, I hated that album. My first introduction to KISS was Destroyer. They were friendly. They were clean. They were sort of mainstream. Then comes Alive, dirty and gritty and loud. And even comparing the Alive album cover with Destroyer, the comic book, it's fun. the Destroyer, bunch of guys in makeup on stage. It just looked so dirty, you know. And then the music fit with that. It was loud. It was like like you. It was too much for me, and I never really got into it, except for Peter Chris's drum solo. I always loved that back at the time. But I remember as well that I always liked Alive 2 much more than Alive. I listened to Alive 2 so much more, and looking at that gatefold of Alive 2 all the time.
Yeah.
You know, amazing. Alive, not so much. And unlike you, Claudio, where you got into it a few months later, I got into Alive many, many years later. I pretty much checked out, I talked about this before, in the 80s. And when I got reintroduced to Kiss in the late 80s, I went back into their catalog, and it's like Alive was the album to go to because this was the band in the early 70s. That was an amazing introduction or reintroduction to the band. So for me, it had even more of an impact because that was the album that reintroduced me to the band again. And now it's my go-to live album and one of my favorite Kiss albums. But it took me so many years to figure that out. But so glad I did.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's true. You know what you said about Alive 2. Alive 2 seemed to have, it seemed to be more attractive, marketing wise, with everything. And well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So guys, we're going back 1975. So as we discussed on the unboxing of the Dress to Kill era, which is the same year. So Kiss were still underdogs in a very crowded rock scene, fighting for recognition. So now in 2025, Alive returns in a world where archival releases shape how we revisit the past. So how did the musical climate of 1975 influence Alive? And what does the 50th anniversary edition reveal to today's listeners? Michael, what's your take?
Okay, the philosophical part here begins. Let's tackle musical climate first. For me, when I look at 1975 or the 70s, the musical climate was much more rock friendly than it is now. Nowadays, it's very much driven by, whether you agree with it or not, it's driven by pop, R&B, and rap. I have nothing against those forms of music, but the dominance seems to be shifted in that direction. But if we go back to the 1970s, rock music was definitely on an equal footing with many other forms of music. Remember, it wasn't that long before, 10 years earlier, that the Beatles basically came on the scene, and it's like, hey, yeah, okay, you can call it pop music, but it was really rock music that they were playing. I mean, if you compare what the Beatles did in the 60s to what a typical pop musician does now, what we hear today is very much pop music. What the Beatles were doing in the 60s at any point in time, as far as I was concerned, was rock music. So, if you look at 1975, Kiss were in a period of time where they could really thrive. And they could really, and also record companies allowed bands and artists to have more the time freedom. to be able to grow and expand and come of age. And it wasn't just, okay, one and done, you weren't successful, so goodbye. I mean, after 3 albums that were moderately successful with Kiss, there was the possibility that Casablanca was, might drop them. So the idea of putting out the live album to help things along was definitely something considered and something that came to fruition. Now, the double live album in the 70s was not a new thing. It's not like, I mean, for the average Kiss fan, it's probably a case of, Alive came along and then everybody started putting out double live albums. It's not true. It's not true. If you go back before 1975, you have Made in Japan by Deep Purple. You have Yes Songs by Yes, which is actually a 3-disc set when that originally came out. Uriah Heep, and a little before, a little after. A Song Remains the Same came out a year later. Yeah. All the World's a Stage by Rush. Love You Live by the Stones. I mean, all of these at Fillmore East by the Allman Brothers Band is considered by many people one of the best rock double live albums.
Yeah.
And that came out in '71. Live at Leeds, which is not double live, but it's by the Who is 1970. So Kiss
that could be an influence on a live.
Yeah, definitely. It's like that. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say is that it's not that Kiss invented or made the double live album something fantastic, or hey, this is, look at this is a profitable way to go. No, it was something that was already out there. It was a way for a band to connect more with their fans. And as Paul Stanley has said on a number of occasions, he would get feedback. He would hear from fans, "Oh, you're more heavy when you're live." In other words, your studio albums are not as heavy. Yeah. It's true, So let's put out a live album and show people what we really sound like when we get up on stage and make a lot of noise. And that had the desired effect. In terms of what was the next question? What does the 50th anniversary edition reveal to today's listener? I think it depends if you're a new fan, not a new fan, but I think it depends if you're a diehard or a longtime Kiss fan, and compared to if you're a new fan. I think if you're a Kiss fan, it reveals, at least to me anyways, it's revealed the work that went into making Alive. You hear all these individual shows, you hear not just the work that they put in to deliver the live shows, but you also get, what's called the Davenport rehearsal, which doesn't sound like a rehearsal. It's actually a recording session that they're doing. And you hear Gene say that, on the recording at the end when they're doing Strange Ways. And Gene sings it, which is quite interesting. But at the end of the recording, he kind of gives somebody crap. Keep the noise down because we're recording.
We're recording this.
Yeah. It's like, so by that point in time, they already knew what they were doing. Yeah. They knew that, perhaps we have to put a few more songs on there on here, that we're not playing live, kind of thing. So let's record this, et cetera, and it kind of, by hearing this, it's like it reveals new things that we kind of have listened to for a long time and kind of scratched our heads about. It's like, well, where did that come from? Well, now we know.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. But so I think if you're a Kiss fan, as we are, and as most people who are watching us are probably, you definitely see the work that the band put into it. If you are not a Kiss fan, if you're getting into this band brand new, what does it reveal? It reveals an abundance of music. That's what it reveals. I mean, quantity and quality.
Yeah,
that's what you're getting, unless you forget about Paul's vocals during the Davenport shows. But it's good stuff, and there's a lot of it. So if you're a new fan and you want to deep dive into Kiss, and this is where you want to start, the pool is very deep. So
be better than this. Okay, super. Patrick,
what does it mean to me? When you think back in the 70s, I think rock music was expanding so much and so fast. Like Michael was saying, you got to remember that 10 years before it was Beatles, the Stones, the Who, and the 60s were different. But here come the 70s where everything is so eclectic. You got progressive rock, you've got country rock, you've got bands experimenting. So it was very it was blossoming. So here comes Kiss, this band that took they were no different from any other bands. They had their influences and took it to their level. And I think Alive pretty much represents that the electricity that was going on in rock and roll at that time, because rock and roll was still pretty new when you think about it. And I agree with Mike. Rock was much healthier in those days, because if you remember, if you're old enough, you have rock versus disco. You either like rock or disco. There was no heavy metal. There was no. So Alive has its place, and you got to remember this came out in 1975, so you can only imagine how heavy it was considered for the times. And lots of people loved it, but lots of people hated it too,
Yeah.
What's this? This is demonic. This is, you know, they're not great players, and you hear all those things. But I think when you listen to a live now, I've listened to it in order to get prepared for this show, and you realize how good Peter was on drums early. But they were wrongfully being labeled as bad musicians and things like that, but it's just not true. And I think Alive is like a statement to say, hey, listen to this. So, and for the now, I think we're glorifying one of Kiss's probably most important periods, because it was the make it or break it era. And now you listen to it and you go, man, they made it. They made it, and this was huge. And you realize how it set the tone for Kiss after that, because they even said it. How are we going to top this?
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to do it with Destroyer and everything, but Alive was really that's what started them. I think a lot of people, I wouldn't be surprised, didn't know before they discovered Kiss that there were 3 albums before that.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Because it was so huge.
Good point. Pask?
Okay, so here's my thoughts. I don't think people give the first 3 albums enough credit. We said it often on the show. It's incredible the number of times they cheated death. How many times lightning struck for this band, that this band made it to 50 years. It's a miracle that this band even made it to 1975. They could have been dead 3 times over, but for some reason they made it to 1975. And it took those 3 albums to do it. There was something about the band that endured even then. And then Alive was just what everybody saw of the band. It's like, now it became, in a sense, mainstream. It's like, this is what everybody's talking about. Now, part of that miracle that they made it, it's like, when you're a band or you're forming a band, you have to be true to who you are. They can't look around and say, okay, so this is the era of the times. This is the music of the times. We're going to emulate that. If that's not who you are, they're not going to make it. So they happened to come into the scene at the exact right time and moment, because what they wanted was exactly what the fans of music at the time wanted. They gave people what they wanted. And at a time of, David Bowie, Alice Cooper, the New York Dolls, and now comes Kiss. The times of all these, like Michael was saying, these live albums, everything was, in a sense, perfectly timed. They didn't do it on purpose, but it was perfectly timed. And again, they were so lucky to have made it because they were true to themselves musically. And that's what the Alive album shows. This is who this band truly is. Forget the studio albums. That's all production. This is real. It's raw. It's gritty. It's dirty.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this box set reveals to us today. The rawness of the band, how tight and aggressive they were. And we go to a concert today, you don't have the energy. You do, but you don't have the energy from the 70s. People are on their phones taking videos, taking selfies. Like, come on, put away your phones and enjoy the moment. That was like 15,000 people enjoying the moment, and you heard it on the album. That's something that we're lacking today. And we listen to this album thinking, yeah, we're missing this. We need this back. And that's what this album reminds us of. This band was hungry, and they were tight. They were aggressive. This was Kiss. This is who they truly were. And it was who they truly were that endured for the next 50 years. Because in a sense, you could say that they sold out and whatever, but at the core, this is who they were. And they were always those same 4 band members called Kiss.
I couldn't say it better than you, Pascal. I'm on the same line. So basically, I was going to use the word honest. So that's exactly what you said. They were true to themselves. So just to respond to the questions, how did the musical climate of 1975 influence Alive? I think that all four musicians were, they had big influence from the bands that and the albums that Mike mentioned, Uriah Heep, but there was a vibe, in the early 70s that I think it was so well captured with Alive. And regardless that we're Kiss fans or whatever, so if we were not maybe Kiss fans, and there's a double album like Alive, I think we could fall in love with that band right away. So it's the other way around. We don't like Alive because it's Kiss. So for most people, that's the signature album of the band that represents what the band is. And I think it's a good reflection of pure, honest, and dangerous rock and roll. Dangerous compared to today, it's nothing. But at that time, can you imagine, being at a show and see these guys playing so loud and with those lyrics and those gimmicks, that's impossible. And I think what today's edition brings or reveals, and I wanna put the stress on the musicianship. It's these guys, they could play, man. They could play so well. Sometimes, they don't get enough credit. And I was so happy when I listened to all this stuff, because at a certain point I was thinking that Alive, because of all the work that has been put by Eddie Kramer and all the overdubs, I think that it was completely fake, and it is not. So you can listen to some of those tunes sounding almost identical to what we listen at the Cleveland show, at the New Jersey show. It was just the audience that was reshaped, as Mike said before. So it still sounds fresh, man. 50 years later, sounds so fresh and so honest. So I love it.
Mhm.
It's worth noting that at the time in 1975, or around the period when Kiss began, most of their influences were still around and still recording and still touring. If you eliminate the Beatles, who were done by 1970, everybody else that Kiss has ever, or Gene and Paul have called out as inspirations, they were all still around. Zeppelin was still around. The Who were still around. Elvis Presley was still around. Humble Pie was still around. So an audience at that time, they were getting Kiss, and they were, I hate to use the word derivative, but Kiss at times sounded a little like Zeppelin. At times they sounded a little like the Rolling Stones. At times they sounded a little bit like this. You were getting that. If you couldn't get it because you couldn't get tickets to see the Stones, well, you go see Kiss and you get a little bit of that.
True. Good point.
So, Claudio, this is a nice follow-up to your question.
Yeah.
So Kiss built their reputation on explosive live shows, and Alive was their attempt to sort of bottle that energy, right?
Yeah.
Now, the 2025 box set offers a new window, in a sense, into that era. So what does it say of where Kiss was musically at the time? Claudio?
I think Alive basically was the cherry on the pie for what they were trying to find with the first three albums. So they were, musically speaking, they were not happy with how those first three records sounded. We read it many times, from Paul and Gene, even from Ace, saying that, the Dress to Kill, Harder Than Hell, and Kiss could not capture the energy that they had live. But where they were musically at that time, I think we had a question on the previous episode when we were unboxing Dress to Kill. I think that's when they knew what they wanted to do. So, and Alive, it's basically, I think it's the ultimate proof of what the band is about. And if you think about it, when they turned the page and then they came up with Destroyer, even though it was the same lineup, it was a different Kiss. It was a complete different Kiss. It was not that dangerous. It was more elaborate. It was more cinematic, thanks to Bob Ezrin, as we know. But that rawness, that danger that came with it, I think it was gone. So we went to the second trilogy, with Rock and Roll Over, Destroyer, and Love Gun, and we all agree it's a different way of playing. It's a different way of writing songs. They went into another chapter. So to me that's the ultimate proof of all those three first albums, and that's captured with Alive.
Cool. Michael, your thoughts?
Well, I think we've used this word a time or two already, but I think it kind of summarizes what I'm going to say, and that is honest. Alive captures Kiss at a time when they were still trying to be honest with themselves, because I think everything that came after, as great as it is, started to be influenced in some fashion. I wrote this down because I didn't know whether I could say it from memory, so I'm just going to read this verbatim, what I wrote. It was a time when Kiss was not yet driven by musical trends. They were still plugging away at making music that they wanted to make, as opposed to music that was trendy or popular.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from the opposite side of the stage, it was still a period when fans were being drawn to the music Kiss was naturally making, as opposed to Kiss making music to draw in fans.
Yeah.
Nice.
Would Beth have been on any of the first three studio albums? I don't think so.
That's right. Good.
Would I Was Made for Loving You have existed in 1974, even if disco was around? I don't know. But again, I don't think so. With Destroyer, they started to think a little bit more about how are we making this album?
Yeah.
What's the statement we want to make? What's the group of people or demographic that we want to attract?
Yeah, it was more targeted. They were trying to please, expand,
yes, exactly.
Their audience. Yeah.
Yes. So therefore you have Paul going and writing I Was Made for Loving You to try and get that played in Studio 54 and other places of that nature.
Well, you get Beth, right? You get Beth.
Exactly. So it's like, Beth, here's a song that's like 5-6 years old already that Peter had with a previous band. Oh, well, that could fit on Destroyer kind of thing as the outlier ballad, even though, Great Expectations also could fill that bill. But Beth really stands out as this song that, this may attract the girls or the housewives listening on their AM radios.
Yeah.
So, coming back to the word honesty, when you listen to Alive, or when I listen to Alive, I hear a band that was still very much trying to push their honest music forward the best that they could, and trying to get that to the people who wanted to listen to it, not looking and saying, oh, well, let's go over there because that's where those people are and we want to attract those people. No, this is the music we want to make. And whoever comes in and enjoys it, let's have a party. Yeah. If you don't like it, well, okay, you don't like it. But that mentality, and I'm not going to read this again, okay? But that mentality ended sometime in early 1976 when they were making Destroyer. I'm not saying that in a bad way, okay?
Yeah, it's a new chapter.
No way whatsoever. But it was definitely a turning of the page. Chapter. Let's call it chapter 5 because it was the 5th album, 3 studio, 1 live. Okay. Album number 5 is going to be Destroyer. This is a new chapter, and it's very different from the other chapters. They tried to go back a little. They tried to backtrack a little bit with Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun. They tried to get a bit more, natural sounding. Let's put it that way. But I think they were already on the road to being bigger than what they could have ever imagined in 1973 or 1974.
Good take. Patrick.
To me, Alive, when it came out, it capped the first era of Kiss, which is underground Kiss, because as we all know, Alive is what broke them and made them superstars. But I think it was the end of an era in the sense that here's a band that was hungry. You hear it in the music, the way they play. I don't think they played the same way after. Once Destroyer came and the success, I'm not saying they played bad. I'm saying a spark was gone. Because the reason I say this is that I've listened to the newer live stuff of the box set with headphones. My God, were they, you know, you had that dirty approach, especially Peter. I always come back to him because he was the one who was the most criticized afterwards. But you listen to the early stuff, and man, he was on fire. And even Gene's bass lines, and you listen to it and you go, oh, okay, I get it. Here's a band that really willing to make it, and they're hungry and they're angry at the same time. Once the success came with Destroyer, oh, okay, we're more relaxed. We still enjoy it, and we still want to be mean, but you know, you're not hungry anymore, so you don't have the same rawness, if I can say that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what changed. But you know, Alive was that last chapter where, hey, we're serious, and here we are, we're Kiss, and we're gonna melt your skull, and we're gonna. But that afterwards, Michael, I think, hit it on the nail. It's the fact that they were paying too much attention to what was going on outside of them. Mind you, bands need to evolve. They need to experiment. Here's an example: Genesis went from being a prog band to become a pop band. Nothing wrong with that. It's okay, and they did good pop stuff. So it's not I'm not criticizing them, but what I'm saying is that a band needs to evolve. So in another way, we had to accept that the first chapter ended with Alive, and something new was going to come, and we are free to like it or not to like it, but that's how it was. But
you know, there's something that I would like to add, Pat, to what you're saying, and you know, this, I think it adds up to the philosophical discussion we're having. And I think it all comes to it happens with many bands. One thing is when you don't have money, and something different is when you have 1 million in your bank account. You're not going to play the same way, even if you have the same talent. So you're going to be surrounded by many people telling you you're the greatest, many people telling you how to sound, how to play. And that didn't happen in the first 3 albums. When these guys, they really wanted to make it, as you said, you can listen to that stuff in Alive. That's maybe why it was not the same on Alive 2. You know, great stuff, you know, and of course, you know, it was a little bit, there was a little bit of chemistry there from Eddie, but the way of playing, this is what I want to capture from your comment. When you listen to Gene, Peter, Ace, and Paul, they never sounded the same.
It's interesting because when you think of Kiss, you think of the live show experience, right? And we've always said it. Kiss isn't about that. That's all window dressing. It's about the music. Now, here's my question. What if Kiss wrote music but never actually released the first 3 albums? They just played those songs live. And then they released the Alive album in 75. Would it have made it? Your intuition would say yes, because it's like, wow, these guys are so bombastic. It's amazing. No. I don't think they would. I don't think the album would have made it, because people are often saying the album captures the energy of the show. No, the album captures the power of the songs. And that's why I think Alive was so successful. And I say that now after listening to the box set, because, you know, when you listen to the rehearsals and the demos and stuff, and you hear the instrumentals, my God, those songs are so good.
Yeah.
You know, you add those lyrics, it makes it even better. But it's like they must have thought, wow, this is really good. It was catchy, it was fast, it was fun. You know, the music was really amazing. And the first 3 studio albums did not catch the power of those songs. They caught the power live. And that's what I think attracted the fans to the band. It is the music. It is the power of those songs. And I think that's what this box set taught us, that these songs, not the show, these songs have power.
So now that you mentioned that, about the songs and the music, Pasc, so we discussed it before. So Alive has always lived between truth and legend, a part concert document, part larger than life creation with the overdubs. So there was so much talk about this until now. So the 2025 set adds new layers to the story. So does the anniversary edition clarify the mythology around the original album, or does it make the legend even stronger? What do you think, Pasc?
This, for me, is a tough question to answer because I listened to the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. And
okay.
He has a theory about some of the shows on the Alive box set. Just quickly, and I go back and listen to what he's saying, because it was really intriguing. He's not convinced that those recordings are raw. He believes that some of those recordings were actually dubbed. And they did the same thing then with the Alive album. Okay. I don't want to look at it in those terms because I didn't see it that way. When I listened to the Alive box set, I saw it in terms of this is the raw recordings. Now, we heard all these stories about Alive being dubbed, being recorded in the studio. If that's the case, why did it sound so much like the raw recordings that we heard on the Alive box set? It wasn't that different. And if you listen to the recordings on Dress to Kill and Alive enough times, you could point out what was used on the Alive album.
Yep.
How could you do that if they were dubbed and recorded in the studio? So what this goes to show, again, I guess this is the theme of the night: honesty. That album was honest. Fans are upset. It was recorded. It was an honest album. It was Kiss on stage, and it showed the power of those songs.
Yeah.
And those recordings are almost, to me, I don't have a musical ear, but to me, indistinguishable from the Alive album. Like Michael was saying, except for the crowd.
Yeah.
But musically, hey, what you hear in Alive was what happened on stage in 1975. And in my opinion, undisputable.
Patrick?
Yeah, I think it demystifies, because I think it went through segments. People discovered that, Alive could not be that live. And, they used overdubs and things like that. But at the end of the day, I think I agree again with Pasc, honesty. Here's a band that, I think was real, and Alive pretty much celebrates that. So, in a sense, when I listened to the excerpts from the other live shows, I couldn't help but think, I guess that's what they used on the album. I can't help but. So, how much of it was not live? It brings a new question because people, we've heard so many rumors about the years about Alive that, Alive, only the drums or live. But after listening to those other live shows, I'm like, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure it's not that unlive. Probably with the years, it became big that, it's not really that live, or they recorded it in the studio and they added crowd noise. And I think it makes it more genuine, Alive. Like, hey, I think the album was more live than we were led to believe.
Yeah.
So it gives it a new life, so to speak. So no, I think the timing was perfect. Great thinking behind that, and knowing that Alive is more, how can I say, authentic than we were led to believe a few years ago makes me even enjoy it more.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Michael, what's your take on this one?
So the question here is, does the anniversary edition clarify the mythology around the original album, or does it make the legend even stronger? My answer to this is it definitely clarifies a lot. I remember when I bought this. You remember
Yeah.
when this came
Oh,
out in
yeah.
1996
Mhm.
to coincide with the reunion tour? I
Yeah.
remember listening to this for the first time, and it's like, oh, look at this room service 2-timer. Let me know. Wow, look at this outtakes from Alive or those recordings. I remember listening to this for the first time. It was 1996. I had only been a diehard fan for about 3 years. But even as a diehard fan for only 3 years, and with very minimal amounts of live recordings in my collection, the first time I listened to Room Service, my very first thought was, that's not Paul's 1975 voice.
Good
What
ear.
Right.
what the hell? I mean, it
Yes.
sounds like the band from 1975,
Yeah.
but it sounds like Paul's
Alive
90s
3.
90s
Today.
90s voice,
Today. Yeah.
you know? So when I
Play
say it
Alive 3 after.
exactly. So when I say it clarifies plenty, it these box sets clarify practically everything. I mean, now I know, okay, that version of Room Service is from the Davenport remote recording that they did, not rehearsal, remote recording session that they did. That's the music. And the vocal was something that Paul recorded afterwards in 1995 or 1996. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. But okay, that clarifies it. It's because at that rehearsal, they only recorded an instrumental of it.
Mm-hmm.
Clears it up. Two-timer. Where the hell did that come from? I've never seen that on a set list. Oh, it came from Cobo Hall. You know, we now have the Cobo Hall show in its
Yeah.
entirety. Oh, wow, look at that. It sounds almost exactly the same. So yes, the amount of uh, I don't know what to call it, treasures.
Yeah.
Is that the good word to use?
Mm.
The amount of treasures that this has dug up is amazing, and it's more fascinating listening to the smaller venue shows. I mean, I love the Cobo Hall show, but you know, the Davenport shows and the Wildwood show and even the Cleveland Music Hall show are in smaller venues. So because they're smaller venues, I think you hear the crowd better and you hear the individual people in the crowd more. That I find very attractive because that makes it sound more like an actual concert or actually being in the crowd at a concert. So yeah, it clarifies plenty for me anyways. Does it make the legend stronger? Honestly, I don't think
Yeah.
necessarily it does. I mean, I think the legend is there and will be. I mean, I think if once you become a Kiss fan, that word gets tagged onto this album immediately. Whether you like it or not, whether you realize it yourself or whether it's imposed on you by somebody else who says, "Hey, get into this band and listen to this album," you're going to realize it's good. So no, I don't think it necessarily makes the legend stronger, but no, it definitely clarifies everything. How do I say this? I mean, you have the solar system, right? And you have the sun in the middle, and all the planets feed off the power of the sun. Well, Alive is like a planet that's in the middle. And all of these individual shows are like different suns. So
Yeah.
you have the that was nice. Oh, you like
An
that one.
analogy.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you have the Wildwood sun, you have the Davenport first show sun, you have the Davenport second show sun. Say that 10 times fast. You have the Cobo Hall show sun, and you have the Cleveland show sun, and you also have the Davenport rehearsal sun, and they all fed into Alive and made it what it is today.
I love it.
Wow.
This is why we love so much doing this, guys. You know,
Wow.
this is amazing. This is amazing, man. Hats off. Amazing. Look, I think you know, I'm gonna try to sum it up because I agree with everything that you guys said, all three of you. To me, Alive, it's the greatest live album of all time, and not because we're Kiss fans, but I listen to a lot of music and I've never found anything like this. And now, what I can say about this overdubbing, I never cared too much if it was, you know, if there was a lot of rework or chemistry behind. I didn't care. I took it as a product that made me happy and that gave me actually the feeling of why I love Kiss. That's it. Now that we have the box set, all I can say is that, you know, when you love a movie so much, so you're dying to see the behind the scenes, right? And this is what it is to me. So we have Alive, which is the final product, everything done perfectly. And now we have the behind the scenes with all of the other shows. So what can be better than that? So, and now I have a hard time listening to the original Alive release because I pretty much like more all of the other shows, because for us, diehard fans, we love all those details and stuff. But it's the as you call it, Mike. So all the different suns. Well, this is the making of Alive, and this is what we got.
Nice. Okay, so Alive obviously was the breakthrough that launched Kiss into the mainstream. Now, 50 years later, its influence still shapes how live albums are judged and compared. So, how does the re-release deepen or change our understanding of Alive's impact on Kiss and on live albums overall? Patrick.
That's that's a tough question for me. I think live albums, you're gonna think, why does he say this? I've worked in a record store for many years. Live albums are not the general public's forte. Example, someone would say, "Oh, do you have I'm looking for this song from the Genesis band," or, "Oh, I have it only the live version." Oh, no, thanks. So my point was that with that is that live albums, including Kiss, is for the diehards and not something for the large public. Now, with Alive, the irony being is that that's what broke Kiss again. So live albums usually aren't really a big thing for the public, but for the diehards, it is something big. And with Alive and Alive 2 being quintessential Kiss albums, it's ironic that they are live. So
Yeah.
I think it proved that live albums can work if you're willing to be a little more open, because you got to understand that the records anymore, not as much, but in the past, the record buying public was not looking for an artist necessarily. They were looking for the song that they liked. Oh, it's good. I heard it on the radio, and that was that. But to say, no, but live, there's more energy, there's more this and that. Not really. So in a sense, it proved that live albums can work.
Michael?
So did it deepen or change my understanding of Alive's impact on Kiss? I'm going to say for me personally, no. But and I say no, maybe it's contradictory compared to what given some of the things I said earlier, but my answer to this is no. And the reason I'm saying no is because of the fact that I have delved deeply into Kiss beyond the official releases. So I have okay, now we have these official shows that went into making Alive. Well, I have 10 other shows from 1975 as well, whether they be on audience recordings or soundboard recordings or radio broadcasts. So for me, I already, going into listening to the music that is on these box sets, I already kind of knew, what is going on before and after kind of thing. So for me, like I said with the previous question, there's a clarity that I got in terms of answering all these unanswered questions from the making of Alive. Well, where did that come from? Is that for real? Was that vocal changed, et cetera, et cetera? Those questions were answered. But in terms of deepening or changing my understanding of Alive's impact on me personally, I'm not so sure. But a fan of Kiss who has never deep dived as much as I have, and perhaps the rest of us, same thing, not deep dived as much, I think for them, it's going to open, a whole new world kind of thing. It's like, wow, listen to this, So I think for not for a newer fan, but for a fan who doesn't go this deep off the cliff into the unofficial territory, I think for them it may broaden or deepen their understanding. Now, does it deepen or change our understanding of Alive's impact on live albums? For me, again, personally, I don't think it makes much of a difference, because like I said earlier, live albums have always been a part of my listening experience. From pretty much day one, I enjoyed listening to live albums. The first Rush album I ever owned was All the World's a Stage. So it's very, for me, it doesn't really change much. But again, for someone who may be a newer fan, it may help deepen their understanding of how these albums, helped shaped what Kiss became. So that's my answer for that.
Okay. Claudio?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Mike on this one. I think it is nice that it's an official product. That's what I love, because you don't have to go, in the unofficial world to find how Alive was made, and you don't have to pick and choose different songs from different concerts just to have an idea on what Alive could have been. Now we have the official product, and that's what I love the most. So deepen or change our understanding of Alive's impact on Kiss? Well, as Mike said, maybe not, but I'm going to reiterate. I think it's great that the box set contains those shows that helps us Kiss fans to demystify, as Pat was saying. But for newer Kiss fans, well, for music fans, I don't think that they will buy the box set, right? So the box set is just for us. I don't think that anybody will spend $400 to have a huge box of Kiss Alive if you're not a Kiss fan. And now, going to the second part of the question, how did it affect the live albums overall? I think that what Eddie Kramer did with Alive was taken as a reference for other live albums that came after. So we always hear about Frampton Goes Live and that kind of stuff. There was a lot of stuff that was copied, that was kind of reproduced from Alive. So I think that Alive was taken as a benchmark and was taken as a reference for other albums that came after.
Okay. I'm actually going to argue the opposite. I'm going to argue yes. I've been a fan since 1976. Kiss has been a part of my life my entire life. It's part of my DNA. I breathe, eat, everything Kiss. And this box set, for me, it still helped me to get a better understanding of the band during the Alive era. That's what makes this box set so incredible, so amazing. Listen, remember the A&E special? It basically told the history of Kiss. Did we get anything new from that? Did we get a better understanding? No, we didn't. Like the same old. Now the A&E special is something that maybe diehards are getting nothing out of it. It's the casual fan that will get something out of it than we would. Not with Alive, though. Not with this box set. I think this box set is made, like you said, Claudio, for us. Yeah. This box set is an historical document that takes us back into 1975. I wasn't there then. I don't know what it was like to see Kiss in 1975. This album, like in the title, when you started the intro, it brought us back to 1975. It made us look deeper into the life, the music, the writing, everything that went into this album and what got Kiss to be famous and what got them up to 1975 with all the goodies in the album, the rehearsals, the different shows. It gave us such an insight into that era that, in my opinion, we wouldn't have gotten without this box set. Yeah. As a diehard fan, I could honestly say that there is stuff on this album that we never heard. Why? It's never been out there. None of us have heard it before. So it definitely gives us an insight into that era. Absolutely.
Okay. Good take. So we're wrapping up, guys, and I think we all agree that there's been so many reissues of different albums, even from Alive, and we all agree that this means so much more than an album. It's a cornerstone, as Michael was saying, of a Kiss culture. Now, So the 2025 box set is the latest chapter. And we always discussed, how Kiss is handling and managing their legacy. Oftentimes we criticized, not being fully respectful of their history. We were the ones thinking that, the two shows in New York, 2023, it didn't pay respect to the legacy of the band. Just the opposite. It was kind of damaging, the legacy. Now with this 2025 edition, what does it say about how Kiss handles their legacy? And how do you think it aligns with what fans hoped for on this milestone? So I think, Michael, I could really be interested to get your take on this one.
So if we look at 2024 and 2025 as the pop house years, or the beginning of the pop house years, look, I'll say it straight out. 2025 has been incrementally, titanically better than 2024. 2024 didn't give us anything like this, and let's remember what came out in 2025 before we got these two box sets. We got a precursor of what was to come. We got the Off the Soundboard San Antonio Asylum show. We thought that was dead. That whole Off the Soundboard series was dead. And then from out of nowhere, here comes San Antonio Off the Soundboard, essentially celebrating 40 years of the Asylum period. Now, you can be happy, or, you can take or leave, the hoodies and the colored vinyl of the studio album and anything else that came out, the t-shirts that didn't include Bruce and Eric, unfortunately. But what did that give us? It gave us a show. It gave us a completely unreleased show. That show didn't exist in any format before. No audience recordings, nothing. So that was like something no one had ever heard before. Only the fans that were at the show that night heard that show. And that was essentially a precursor of what we've gotten now, which I think is exactly how Kiss should be dealing with their legacy. Because we've said it 100,000 times. See what I did there? 100,000? We've said it 100,000 times. It's the music. Yes, everything else is nice, but it's frosting. The music is the cake. And these two box sets have given us so much music. Next year is 2026. Rock and Roll Over. Destroyer. Let's see what happens. We got the Destroyer box set. I would be interested to see if we might get a Rock and Roll Over box set. 1977, Love Gun. Kiss's first tour in Japan. That might be something interesting to commemorate. And as I said in the previous discussion panel, 1978, 50 years of Alive 2. If they put out the 3 standalone LA Forum shows, I'm going to lose my word that rhymes.
There is a God.
Word that rhymes with hit. So yes, as far as I'm concerned, and if you want to buy every single hoodie they put out, if you want to buy every single t-shirt they put out to commemorate an album, go for it.
Yeah.
But it's not, personally, that's not for me. I will stick to what essentially got me into the band in the first place, which was the music and their live performances, and these two box sets, and I'll also include the Off the Soundboard San Antonio show. That's what these releases from 2025 have given us compared to 2024. I mean, 2024 was a wasteland. Let's be honest. This year has been, it's like every tree is bearing fruit.
Yeah, nothing but great. Yeah.
So that's it.
Okay. Pask.
Oh, I've been waiting for this question. So, regardless of what happens from now on with the band, I think we need to remember what this band is all about by focusing on this particular box set. So what does the Alive box set say about how Kiss handles its legacy? Okay, number one, I believe Kiss wants their legacy to be anchored in the live experience. They know that the Alive era, this historical document represents what the band was really about in 75. What it also shows is that the band is more transparent now than ever before. There is stuff on this album that, wow, you must be embarrassed to release that. And Paul, as we saw on Kiss Cruise, he's always so subconscious about making mistakes, self-conscious about making mistakes. We see all the mistakes on this album, yet it was released.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the word honesty, we see an honest band in their heyday. This is what they were like. That's what this box set shows us. And what I like about all the goodies in the box set, that it treats the band sort of like, again, it's an historical document, but almost like museum level preservation with all the stuff in there, all the packaging. When I look at this box set, to me, it tells me that Kiss, it was a huge part of rock history. Not just an afterthought, but a huge part in it. And I think best of all, this box set recognizes that fans want authenticity. Fans want the real story. We were talking about, Claudia, one of your questions about the overdubbing. Does it create the myth even more or whatever? This box set shows us the true nature of what happened in 1975 with that album. And I think that's what fans have always wanted. We've always had questions on that particular issue, and this album has finally answered it. And I'm going to close with saying this box set was honest, just like the band was in 1975.
Awesome. I love it. Pat?
I think it makes me realize that they're finally giving the fans what they want. Part of me feels that they didn't really believe we wanted that stuff, because, as you said, I think the expensive box sets are not for the general public. It's more for people like us. But we want that stuff. We want unreleased live gems. Just Michael, you mentioned about like San Antonio. You know what? It's not my favorite era of the band, but just the fact that it's so odd makes it interesting. Same with the Animalize off the soundboard. So Alive, the recent box sets, all four of them, gives me faith that there's more coming, more great stuff coming. Gets me excited, because here's a band, probably since before they were touring so much, they didn't have time to really give it much thought. But now things are pretty much over. They can look into it and say, okay, well, I think this is what the fans want. And who knows what other surprises they have. Because, next year, it's true, it's 1976, the 50th anniversary. I can only dream what they can come up with for the, Rock and Roll Over. And I'm one of those fans that likes the bells and whistles with the T-shirts and things like that, because I like the theme approach to it. So I don't like being forced to buy it if I buy the box set, but if it's a necessary evil, I'll live with it. But otherwise, I think they finally got it, and they get some great teams to come up with those.
Absolutely.
Great fans that submit stuff, and you go, wow, that's unbelievable. So it's almost a made by fans for fans, officially made by fans for fans, And I think it gives the incentive to the band to say, hey, maybe we should dig into our stuff, and I think this will blow their mind. I think they're at that chapter right now. I mean, I hope so.
Yeah. True. It's I'm with you, Pat, on this one, and Pasc, and of course Mike. It's this is a dream, man. So getting this deluxe edition. I remember 2024, we were so depressed. We didn't have anything. So it was so down. We were thinking that everything was finished. No implication from Paul and Gene. We were thinking that this was never going to happen. And here we are, 2025, all excited again. with two box sets in 1 month or 2 months, full of beautiful stuff, full of great music, which is what we want. And I think there's, Pop House, maybe they needed some adjustment at the beginning, maybe to understand, the Kiss culture, to understand the Kiss fans. Maybe that's what it took them, just to get up to speed. And I'm optimistic. I think that the next, box sets to come, they will follow this kind of trend. And you made a great point, Patrick, saying that the people that are involved, like, for example, Tom German, who's amazing. He's been involved in the other box sets, and he's a true Kiss fan, and he knows what we're hoping for. So this is a time for celebration for us, guys. I think, we will never get tired of listening to, not only the Kiss Alive box set, but also Dress to Kill. And it's going to make us kind of revalue this band for what it was, how great musicians they were, and so much happiness that they gave us. So, kudos to the team. It's great, and keep it coming.
I mean, how much more honesty can you get? I mean, look. I mean, I was going to say this earlier, but I'll say it now. I mean, look what time does. 50 years on, in 1975. Do you think Paul would have been okay releasing anything from those Davenport shows?
Mm-hmm.
Forget it. He would. I mean, no way. I mean, musically, the shows are fine. Guitar, bass, drums, they all sound fine. Everyone plays great, but Paul is sick.
Yeah.
But 50 years on, 50 years later, after all's been said and done, after all the money's been made, let's be honest, after all's been said and done, Paul's probably like, yeah, put it out there, let people hear it,
Mm-hmm.
But guarantee in 1975, it's like, okay, we'll keep the music, but the vocals, not so much.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show and doing this with us, because I love this episode, because I think without it, I wouldn't have thought about this box set this deeply. And Claudio, thank you for preparing the episode, because this one really made me think. It really made me think.
Well,
it took me, to put everything together, to put my thoughts together. It took a while, because I want to give this box set justice, and I want to convey exactly what this box set meant to me. And this episode gave me that opportunity that otherwise I wouldn't have taken. I wouldn't have had a second thought. Put on the music, enjoy it, look at the stuff, enjoy it, and that's it.
Yeah.
This is, and how many opportunities do we have to share this love and passion for something like this with other people, with the general public? We don't. It's just us nutcases in here, So, guys, thank you so much for being nuts and joining us with this conversation. It was awesome.
This is great. This is great. So even though we're talking about the box set, so I'm thinking as you were talking, Paz, that this is kind of an unboxing of our feelings,
there we are.
Instead of going through every item that it's there, it's what it means to us, and of course, there's no one better than discussing this with Pat and Mike. So, guys, thank you so much once again. This is a true pleasure, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
We unboxed our love for this box set. I like that.
There you go. You got.
I like that.
That's what even in the Dress to Kill one, we unboxed our love for Dress to Kill.
Oh yeah.
And just one quick note here. We're taping this on a Thursday. Tomorrow, the Next Generation dropped their first song. Stanley Simmons released their very first single. So if you're watching this on Sunday or any day after and you haven't listened to that song yet, make sure you go and listen to it.
Absolutely. All right. To the Kiss Army, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please send them to talktome@kissarmynationpodcast.com. Until the next time, remember, never stop rocking. Take care, everyone.